All right, so we will do a mock interview.
Okay.
Very good CV, first of all. Okay. So you've got, you have 2 interviews coming up, right?
Yes.
Which you have, the first one is like a coordinator assistant for a large institution, like a hospital.
Yes, it is.
And then the next one is CRA, actually.
CRA 1.
And they're both entry level, right?
Yes.
But they called you because your resume looks really good. And we're going to start using this template as well for our academy. So thank you very much. Very impressive resume. And you noticed that when you switched to your CV, you started getting more.
I started getting more response, more feedback on
So
it.
it matters if it... I think it matters if it looks exceptionally better than the others.
Yeah.
Because if it just looks a little better, I don't think it matters. But if it looks like
it kind of
totally different from everyone else's, but in a good way. So this is really cool. You got to email me that vendor that you use.
I'll send the information to you.
All right, so let's do the mock interview for the coordinator.
Okay.
Yeah? Or which one do you want to do?
The coordinator first, if that's...
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one that contacted me first, so...
And you have a phone interview first, and then you're going to probably go in person if you do well.
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll ask you, so Chiquita, why don't you tell me a little bit about your work as an independent clinical research consultant? What do you do there?
With the independent clinical research consultant is working as a contractor, working hands-on with different CROs and other organizations requiring me to go out to assist them with whatever case studies that they're working on. It's independent, so I'm not actually with a particular company per se. So
it's your own company.
It's my own.
Now,
started.
If you were to work for us, would you do it under this company or under yourself?
It depends on whether or not how they contract me. Okay. So if they contract me and they want me to work under them, then it will pay me under a W-2, pay me directly. If they want to do it in a different form, then it will go under my consultant, CM Manning.
Okay, and I'm doing the mock interview now, but well, we only want W-2 employees. Okay. So will that be a problem?
No, that won't be an
So will
issue.
you still do this while you're doing that, W-2?
Well, it depends as far as whether or not you will be how much you will be requiring of me as far as full time.
We'll require full time.
If you're requiring me full time, then I will also. I mean, it's still a company that I will have on the side in case there's another study that has to be addressed or I get in any communication with them.
Okay. And we'll pause from the mock interview for a second. Sidebar. So they already have the CV, so they're gonna already ask you that. But I guess for the future ones, plus you only put from June till present, so it's not like that much experience.
Yeah, it's just.
I would probably remove this.
Okay.
This part, because that could raise a lot of questions that you'd just rather not have when you're there.
Okay.
I mean, you can leave it. I think because it's only a month of experience, it does more harm than good. I think. Okay. Because you have plenty of other stuff going on. If you didn't have anything, let's say we're not in the CRA Academy, you didn't have any internship, I would have this. Okay. But you already have that. You have 3 other ones. Okay. So I would take this part out for the future. Okay. They already have this, so they're gonna might ask you that.
About it,
and you can say, no, that's just something I did. My answer would be, that's just an LLC I just created. As you can see, it was in June. Yeah. It's to prepare me because I was looking for contract opportunities as well.
That's what.
I would answer it that
way.
Better,
yeah.
And I just haven't updated my CV, but that's if I intend to look for W-2 positions right now, and I would not I would not pursue my
contract. While working the W-2.
Unless you want to hire me as a contractor, then I can do that. But if it's W-2, I'm willing to do that. I just want to get started working with you in any way I can.
Okay.
But for like future, just take that out. Okay. That way they'll just start asking you like from here.
Okay.
And you can explain that better.
Okay.
Plus, it's a lot of stuff to put for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Or 1 month. Okay. So I'll just take that part out.
Okay.
Okay, so tell me about your work with the clinic in Atlanta. What have you done there?
The clinic in Atlanta is an internship that was created for me with the CRA academy that I was working with. And it pretty much is a hands-on experience with the clinic affiliated with Gwinnett Medical Center, and whatever more so administrative duty type. So whatever they required of me to do, whatever trial they were taking on at the hospital per se, those were the studies that I assisted them with to maintain their documents.
I think that's good. And then you'll add whatever studies they give you there. Okay. Let's see. Coordinator, participant care management. Ah, here's one. So So did you do informed consents there?
There are some informed consent forms that I did review that I was able to complete there with them as well.
So when you say review, did you do it with the patient, or you just reviewed it to see if it was completed?
A little bit of both. When we were going through regulatory binders as well, looking at making sure all the information was there, the informed consent that we received from the patients or participants, and also communicating with the participants in the initial phase of the study to ensure that we had their consent to proceed further with the clinical trial with them.
Okay, so you did both. You did QA on the informed consents that were already done, like a internal monitor.
Yes.
Right? But you also would conduct consenting activities with subjects yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was the PI there, or were you by yourself with the patient?
It was mostly working directly with the patient. If there were any concerns, the PI was available and on premises if there were any concerns or questions that needed to be addressed.
Okay.
So they are there. But as far as communicating with the participants per se, it was just me and the participant going over the details regarding the study.
And can you give us what was the site's process of consent?
The site's process of consent in gathering their information and making sure that they were fully aware of what the study was about, explaining the details of the protocol to the participant, and also making sure that they were fully aware of how to maintain compliance with the per se itself.
Okay, so sidebar, not mock interview anymore, comments.
Okay.
So process of consent is each site has its own SOP for a process of consent.
Okay.
What you said is not wrong, but it's what they want to hear is like a private room or private quiet room with the subject.
Okay.
They were given opportunity to ask questions.
And read over.
Yes, opportunity to review.
Okay.
I was there to answer questions. Okay. If it was a medical question, I would have the PI come in and answer it.
Oh, okay.
I would continue.
Okay.
They were given the opportunity to take a copy home and discuss with their family prior to joining the study.
Okay.
Once they signed and the PI signed it, they were given a copy of it. They were explained about the risks and the benefits of the study. They were explained about the IRB. They were given our 24-hour line. That's a typical process of consent for a site. It's part of their SOPs.
Okay.
What you said is fine to you, but it's
that made better sense to go that route, to go more detail on. Okay.
Yeah. But it's entry level, so they're not expecting too much from you, but since your CV, because you actually do have this experience, from June till present, and then with us from March till present, right? So if you put it down here, they're gonna ask you about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So just be careful about everything you put down, because it's going to be a problem. Okay, so that's the process of consent. Just make sure you know it.
Okay.
Even though they're entry level, and you put from March till present, so you have like 4 months of experience, which is enough time if you put that you did it.
Yeah.
To know what the process of consent is on the SOP. Okay. I do remote source data review and verification. Okay. And then they might ask you, what's the difference between source data review and source data verification?
What's the difference between source data review
and source data verification?
Verification, going over each essential document within the regulatory binders. Source data review going over each individual item, and then source data verification is going through the regulatory binder, checking to make sure all the items are there.
No. Source data verification is looking at source and confirming it's the same as EDC. Okay. Source data review is what you just mentioned.
The manual.
Yeah, and that's how you make sure the sites are following the protocol. That's how you make sure they're following GCP. You don't need the EDC for source data review.
Okay.
It's just you're looking at you know the protocol. And you're looking at the source documents to see if the protocol is being followed. Okay. So that's the difference, because we put both activities for you here, and you can do both of those remotely. That's why it's important. And we use Intralinks for that. Like, we'll upload the documents on Intralinks, the source, so you can actually do SDR remotely. Okay. Okay, back to the interview now. So, it says you were involved with patient recruitment. So what do you do? How do you handle recruitment? Like, let's say the site is having a hard time recruiting subjects. What are some of the things you've done to help recruit subjects? Or would do, if you didn't have the time to do it?
Some of the things we've done to assist with getting information out there to for different case studies, using the internet sources out there to get the information about the clinical trial itself. There are also ways as far as manual letters, things of that nature going within the actual clinics or hospitals themselves, pulling patients that way, but just trying to get the information out there through all the different resources that we have. We've used, like I said, the internet resources in order to assist with that. And also we've used manual letters.
Now, were you actually doing the recruitment, or you're just helping with the strategy?
As far as doing the recruitment, getting more so the administrative portion of it. Okay. And
so, side note, I'll just insert comments here. So yeah, you can answer either way. Okay, it just make sure that because it just says here recruitment and enrollment strategies. Okay. So if they ask you that, you can say, if you've actually done, like in Atlanta when you go at the site, he'll probably have you actually recruit patients.
Okay.
Like from the database. Usually it's from the PI's database of subjects.
Okay.
Like he'll just give you a list of people to call because they've pre-identified these patients as maybe meeting the inclusion-exclusion. So now you need to call them to make sure to see if they're interested,
okay.
right? Mm-hmm. So that's something you can do with when you're newer at a site.
Okay.
Like we have the interns here do that.
Okay.
Jesse and Lucky.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just give them a list of people we already know pre-qualify, and then they'll call to assess if they're interested or not. Okay. So that's something you could do.
I've read like going through the clinical trials.gov source.
That's designed for patients,
mm-hmm.
but it's not really used by patients, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I changed oversight of monitoring activities to oversight of study activities.
Okay.
So patients don't really use clinicaltrials.gov. They don't really know what research is. So
mm-hmm.
It's up to people like you at the site to
I've
educate
received
them.
emails, and then like social sites also send information that way as well too.
Yeah.
So I mean,
for cancer, could be different because those patients are more motivated.
Yeah.
But for and we have oncology experience through our CRO
mm-hmm.
for you. But like for like the site you're gonna work at in Atlanta, they don't do oncology,
mm-hmm.
so it's different type of
mm-hmm.
recruitment because those patients like asthma or schizophrenic
mm-hmm.
or an Alzheimer's, they're not really motivated to join the studies.
Okay.
Like oncology is different
mm-hmm.
because the patients are actually highly motivated.
Okay.
To learn about studies. So they actually do use clinicaltrials.gov.
Mm-hmm.
Oncology patients.
Yeah, because I did it for my brother.
Yeah, see, but Alzheimer's, they don't do that. Schizophrenia,
mm-hmm.
asthma, they don't even know what that is. Okay. Prepared study-related documents and reports of trial progress. So you said you do source data review. Writing and reviewing site visit reports, so they might ask you about that. What do you typically do? Did you write the entire report, or how did you do that?
Basically just reviewing the information that was submitted by prior CRAs and making sure that all the information was correct or accurate, and if there was any information overlooked, making a note in order for us to address those concerns before the next visit from CRAs.
And it shows that you have experience with ECG.
Yes.
You conducted ECGs.
Yes. Within an internship, there was a training for that as well. Okay. So we were all able to participate.
Now, what about phlebotomy? Do you know how to draw blood?
I've done it, but that was a long time ago.
Would you be willing to do it if we trained you on it?
No, I would be willing to do it if I was trained on it.
All right. Trying to think what else they might ask you.
I'm gonna practice this like religiously.
Because the thing with these interviews, they can ask you a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But they usually look at your CV.
I was gonna gather my questions from my CV and also the star list like Shanae had gave, and then
the star,
and research. And I was hoping like you giving me the information now, it'll give me some other different things to research and start studying.
Because another one says it shows that you've done IP accountability. So can you kind of walk me through what you did?
Counting with one of the clinical trials, was assisting the study coordinator in counting the pills that were administered out to the different participants and making sure that they were in compliance. So reviewing the things that were returned, the pills that were returned, and calculating and making sure that everything was in order for the next phase.
Okay. And let's see, what can they try to stump you on? I don't think they will on a entry level, but so okay, I'll ask you one. So what kind of trial master file did you guys use?
There was I want to say it was, because Interlink isn't.
Yeah.
Interlink was one
that's
of
it.
the.
That's the only one we use.
Okay.
So that's what we use to upload the source. That's what we use for the oncology study for our CRO.
Okay.
We use Interlinks for that. I will actually add you to the Interlinks folder for our oncology study.
Okay.
Just so you can look at those forms.
Okay.
Okay. So that's good, Interlinks.
Okay.
Source document creation. Do you know how to create source documents?
Source document creation, would that be like coming up with your own assessment form for each document?
No, it's creating the actual sort, like for each visit, the source, right? Like visit 1, all the papers that go with it.
Oh, okay.
Not the scales, not the assessments, but the actual source, like the visit date with the patient initials on the top, date of blood draw, time.
Oh, okay.
That's the source.
Okay.
Usually, sites have to create those.
Okay.
So you have that here that you.
That's what she was telling us.
Yeah, that's what Monica taught you today. So it's on here. So if they ask you, you gotta know.
That's what they're okay.
Yeah. Regulatory, startup regulatory. How did you assist with this?
Startup regulatory. With the startup regulatory.
Today.
Yeah, I was trying to remember.
So it's very easy. It's just they give you templates of the 1572, the financial disclosure, the IRB questionnaire. What else is on the startup regulatory?
Let's see, the IRB, the 1472, the
1572.
Yeah, 1572.
The FDF, which is financial disclosure form. IRB initial survey. Protocol signature page. Investigator brochure signature page. And then all the CVs and GCPs of all the staff. That's startup regulatory. Okay. Different than, much less stuff than all the regulatory, because you don't get into delegation log until like SIV. Okay, but for startup, it's like prior to SIV. It's getting your site ready to get initiated.
Okay.
So when the sponsor sends the initial regulatory packet, like that's what Monica was doing with you today, right? They got a new study. They got to fill out all those forms for each staff member. IRB questionnaire. Okay, and they might ask you which IRBs you work with.
Whether it's local or central.
Yeah, which kind did you work with, Shakita?
Well, it's more local. Central.
Central. Okay. Emory probably has a local.
Yeah.
But with us, you work with only central IRBs. And what are
Covance?
No, not Covance. Covance CRO. The IRB, there's in Interlinks we have like a common IRBs. But before you leave, go look at which IRB these studies were. Okay. There's a couple big ones like Quorum. Schulman, Sterling, Copernicus, Western. So just look through the books, the one you looked at. Okay, because they'll might ask you which IRBs you worked with.
Okay.
And they'll ask you, central or local IRB. Okay. And then if you say central, which you will, these guys might tell you, well, we use a local IRB, so it's a little more challenging to work with. But local IRBs, because they take a little longer to review things. But you should just respond. That's not a problem. It's I know the fundamentals of startup regulatory. Okay. What do you do? What have you done? Or what would you do? Because you're entry level. What would you do if you were doing a consent form with a patient and they completed it and they went home, and the next day you're reviewing your own work and you realize that the patient forgot to initial one of the pages? What would you do?
One of the pages of the informed consent?
Yeah.
Contact the patient to inform them that one of the pages there was a slight oversight in initialing the page, and in order for us to move forward, we would need for them to complete that portion in order for us to keep record of that in our file.
Okay. And when would you have them come in?
Well, I would ask, would it be convenient for them to come in that day if they could possibly, but if not, ask them what would be the best time for them to come in as soon as possible in order for us to move forward with it.
And what if they forgot to put a date and you asked them to come back on a different date?
Then we'll have to, when they come in, they will have to sign with that date, and I would have to initially indicate in the date when I recognized the error, which would have been the day prior when it.
So you'll put you'll have them sign the correct date, their date of that they're signing, no backdating, and then you'll put a note to file
indicating that there was an error and there was an oversight, so they had to come in. So I'll put that in the file.
And you can also say, like, I would discuss with the PI or the site director
to see which direction they want to go.
Yeah.
With it. Okay.
But that was a good answer. Okay. That was asked by a student of ours who got hired here. She got asked that question.
Okay.
And at first she said she's going to call the monitor.
Oh.
But then she realized that it was wrong, and so she
corrected.
Yeah. So what kind of tasks were you assigned during your brief experience that you have?
Reviewing different case study files, checking to make sure there were no errors or any oversights, making a note to the file if there was an error found, mostly administrative regarding the patient files, the reviewing the protocol, making sure everything in the regulatory binder was followed accordingly. Also checking with the IRB documents and things to ensure everything had been followed by the clinic.
And which IRBs did you work with?
I have to look at it.
Oh, you're looking at it. Yeah, I see that. Which EDCs? There's Quorum. I can't remember which ones are these, but Quorum is a big one, and then Western Copernicus Group. Okay. They merged now. Western and Copernicus used to be two, now they merged.
Okay.
So those are good. But look at which ones these are when you go. And which EDCs did you work with?
The EDCs, I'm trying to remember what was the name of the EDC that she had us.
In the clinic or in the academy, we use BioClinica.
Yeah, BioClinica.
Here, I don't know which studies Monica showed you, but it must have
Oracle.
been. Okay, there you go. So Oracle. Just Oracle and BioClinica. Okay. Trial master file is Intralinks. Okay. They might ask you about your psychometric rating assessments. So it looks like you are certified or have skills in psychometric ratings. Can you explain that? Which ones you are certified on?
The NIH certification, also the... There were 2 other certifications.
Yeah, no, not those. Not those. But the psychometric rating scales. The CSSRS, the PANS, and the CDR.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain those? Can you explain those to
okay.
us? What did you do? How often?
Well, whenever an individual came in and we needed to get an interview from those participants, sat down with the recording and answered and followed the particular formats of the different PANs, the CDR, to get the information required for that particular study.
And if it's entry level, like this interview you're gonna have, I mean, you can tell them, the truth that you were just trained on mock assessments with us, and you shadowed the raters on their scales. You can, because it's entry level. Okay. So you can say that too. You can even change that to like shadowing. And in-house training on this. Okay. I'll put it down. Shadowing and mock interviews. Because that might be easier for...
With the entry level.
Yeah. Because from March till present, we're in July now, so 4 months? It takes about 3 months to get certified for a PANS or a CDR. So it's better if you put a mock interview. But for the CSSRS, you can actually get the certificate online. Yeah. I'll send you that link. Okay, I think that's good. I mean, professional experience, provided exposure to drug development process, clinical monitoring process, collaborative opportunities, compliance training, data collection, source documentation, validation, personnel management. So they might ask you, which personnel did you manage?
Well, I was looking more so with my project management background.
That's good.
With that.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Because they will ask you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. I think it's good. You just have to know what certificates you have, okay?
Yeah, I can't remember.
You gotta know, and they can ask 1,000-star questions. We went through some yesterday. I mean, the ICF process was one. How do you handle that informed consent? What have you done when you noticed, when you were doing quality assurance at the site, and you noticed that they were not adhering to the protocol? What did you do? And you can say, I just reported to my supervisor, which is Monica or Chris, right? Or at the other site, whoever it is. You report it to them. But just, we removed some stuff, we added some stuff, just to make it make more sense.
That works for me.
Yeah, remove a whole paragraph down here.
Yeah, that works for me.
Because it's entry level, right?